The most valuable lesson I have learned as a coach. Oh, this is such a good one and such an important one. Like if there is like one thing I wish everyone in this community would listen to, it's this. Because I feel like one of the greatest gifts of being a coach has been being behind the scenes in so many different businesses, right? And getting to see the behind the scenes of, like just the gamut of businesses in terms of, like the 7-figure businesses, the people that have scaled to 7 figures really fast, the people that got there after years, the people who are just starting, the people who are somewhere in the middle, like the people who have all different forms of business who, have some online, have some offline, like, right? Just getting to be behind the scenes and all that has really been such a gift for me because it's helped me to see and make connections on what actually impacts results, what actually makes people happy, what actually moves the needle, right? And so getting to see all of that has been like literally like one of the greatest gifts of my life and has just totally changed my perspective. And I want to share that perspective with you because some of you may have the gift of being behind the scenes in a ton of businesses. Some of you may have a business where that isn't what you do. And so you don't know that perspective, right? And here is the perspective, right? Let's break it down. The perspective is everyone has challenges. Everyone has challenges. But here's the deal. Usually they have very little, if anything, to do with their circumstances. I'm going to break that down in a lot of different ways, but I want to like really, really drive this point home. Everyone has challenges, okay? And they usually have very little, if anything, to do with their circumstances. Are you with me? Give me an emoji if you're with me and if you're feeling me. If you're here, say hi. That's a big deal. And I'm going to tell you why it's such a big deal in just a second. But I'm going to literally say it one more time because I cannot stress enough how important this is and like how I want that to process and land for you. So everyone has challenges. No matter how big your business is, how successful you are, how many team members you have, every single person has challenges. And they usually have very little, if anything, to do with your circumstances, right? So when I say that, what I mean by that is that, excuse me, you can be just as challenged and feel just as much trigger or whatever when you're making an absolute, shit ton of money or whatever as when you're not. Or, you can feel amazing when you have 2 clients versus you can feel not amazing when you have 20. Like, I think we're so conditioned. Hey, Yaritza, thank you for being here. Thank you for saying hi. I think we're really, really conditioned that our circumstances in our business are what will dictate how we feel and our happiness. Right? And we all tangentially like know that's not true, but I think there's this huge part of most of us that are like, no, I'll definitely feel better when ... I'm making more, I'm traveling more, I'm doing more, I have more clients, whatever. There's like this huge belief, and I think it gets pushed in our industry so much, which is like, yeah, like happiness is an inside game, like all that, and you'll definitely be happier at 7 figures, right? And what I can tell you is that you will just have a different set of challenges, right? But it will have very little to do with your circumstances in terms of like, is making 7 figures actually going to make you happier? It's not, right? Like, is creating more success actually going to be a difference maker? It's not. And sometimes this can feel a little depressing, but I promise I have a good spin for you and a good way that I want you to think about things. But the reason it's so important to know that our circumstances are not usually the thing that is impacting our challenges the most is because it's really easy to grass is greener shit, right? So like, let me just give you a couple examples. Like, I've had a lot of clients actually, which is kind of funny and interesting, but I've actually had a lot of clients that have had trust funds. And it's really interesting, right? Because for example, like, it's easy to be like, let me just see something really quick here. Sorry about that. I can see that I have like multiple comments, but I can't see them. Let me see if I can pull them up. But anyway, so I've had, if you commented before, maybe just comment again so I could see it. But I've had like multiple clients, for example, that have even had like trust funds and whatever. And you would think like, oh, well, like if you have all the money in the world and you don't have to worry about it, it must be the easiest thing in the world to build your business. You wouldn't even have any pressure. You wouldn't have to. The challenges are just different. I've had multiple clients scale to 7 figures and it must be like, well, fuck, if I was at 7 figures, like I wouldn't have any problem. The challenges are just different. And that should be the best news ever. Because what you can do is stop feeling like you don't get to feel how you want to feel until you get somewhere else, right? You also get to stop thinking that you're wrong for having certain feelings. Hey, Lisa. What I see happen all the time, hey, Julianne, thank you guys for being here. What I see happen all the time is we really, really tend to think that everyone else is doing better or has it easier. That's why I wanted to share with you guys at the start of this that like, I had a really hard night last night. Like I definitely cried over this partnership stuff, feeling the weight of it and the pressure of it. And I think it would be so easy to be like, oh, well, like this isn't hard for Lacey. It totally is. It's just not hard, not from being happy or stops me from moving forward, right? I think it's really easy to see people on social media and think, well, like they have it made, like it must not be hard for them, or they clearly don't struggle, right? And what I can tell you is that every single business owner that I work with is a human and has challenges and struggles, right? And that has been the greatest gift, is just to be able to see behind the scenes of that and to see like nobody is exempt from a human experience, right? Nobody is exempt from feeling feelings of overwhelm or frustration or enoughness or whatever. And we're so quick to think like, but for her, it's different, or but if I could just not feel this way, then, right? But the challenge point is really to be able to go, how do I work on my own happiness now so that no matter what result I create, it's always going to feel good, right? And it's not to say that when you create more results, there's not great experience or you don't get to have an amazing life experience, but it's just to say that like, if you're waiting on that to be the difference, you will end up being disappointed when you get there, because you'll be like, wait, I thought when I got to 20K months, everything would change. So I'm going to give you some examples of this, right? So I also have had clients that literally travel full-time. I've had a lot of clients that travel full-time and are like digital nomads, right? And then I've had clients who really aspired to that. And so a client that I had was able to start doing that in our time working together, and moved abroad, was traveling all over, all that kind of stuff. And she was like, oh my God, like this has been the dream for years. And I just thought everything would change for me when I was able to do that. And like, I'm still here. Like things are still the same. Like I really get now that like the option to be happy is on me. The option to feel good in my business is on me. Like being able to travel didn't make anything different. It didn't make me feel better in my business. It didn't make me finally feel successful. It's a fun life experience. And again, like, don't get me wrong. It's not to say like, don't go out and have these fun life experiences. But if you're putting so much weight on them, right, you will feel so disappointed. If you're like, but if I became a digital nomad, then like all of these problems would disappear, or everything would get easier. I'd be so much happier, or whatever. Like, you're trying to like outdo the human experience. You're trying to like never have like those ups and downs, or not have to like be with yourself basically, right? And it's so important to have this conversation and this message, because we can spend so long chasing something. And what's really true, and what I've seen to be true with a lot of my clients that have grown in that way, is like, it's who you become on the way there that will make the biggest difference in how you experience the success, right? Versus the actual success. So Yuritsa says, I aspire to be a digital nomad. Totally. And it's totally possible. And it's totally a fun life experience. The challenge point is when we think like that will make everything different, right? Brittany says, I thought I'd feel different after hitting 10K months, but everything feels the same. I still spend the same. I still have anxiety over nothing. Brittany, thank you so much for sharing that. Seriously, like that is such an important message. Again, not because we're saying like don't make 10K months. We're just saying like if you spend all your time thinking 10K months will change everything, you're going to be so disappointed when you get there. And then you're going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And the truth is, every client I've ever had that has made 10K months is like, that's cool, but like I thought everything would change and it didn't. Like I thought whatever, like, you know, I would feel like I knew everything in my business and I would never have anxiety again. That's not what happens, right? And so doing this inner work is so important. The clients I've had that have grown super fast and have had a lot of success and stuff still have the same challenges. In fact, like I kind of forget what episode of the podcast we're on now, but I think Sam is doing an amazing job this season. And I hope I'm not about to give a spoiler because she grew super, super, super fast and is having to deal with the trade-offs and challenges of that. And it's so helpful to be able to see that behind the scenes of like, oh, like she made more money than she was even planning on and like crushed every one of her goals and she still has challenges and difficulties, right? And it's not because we're like, oh man, it's going to be a bummer no matter fucking what. It's because we can stop making those outside circumstances the determiner of how we feel, and who we get to be along the way to getting there is going to make the biggest difference. It's like I was sharing in my MillionHer mentality live stream, which I think probably should still be marked as an announcement in this group if you haven't watched it, which is like, that's why like doing things your own way and like doing the inner work and figuring it out along the way is going to be the greatest determiner of like your ultimate feeling. Like for me, I literally feel like a multimillionaire every day. Like I feel wildly abundant and all of these like amazing things. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong, like a little life does really well. We make over $500,000 a year, but like that's not why I feel that way. I feel that way because I've done the motherfucking work to feel that way, right? And I still have a human experience. I just don't make it wrong. Again, like last night, I totally was in my human experience, but I just don't make it wrong because I know everybody else is having them too. Does that make sense? Where we tend to fuck up is when we're in our human experience and we're like, well, there must be other business owners out here who never struggle with this, who never have a hard day, who always feel 100% lit up by their business, who've never had a good cry over their business, etc. And we think like they have something we don't. And the truth is they don't. Like they have just as many challenges. You're going to have just as many tears at 7 figures than at, you know, 2 clients or whatever. When you can be okay with that and you can like get really real with yourself about that and realize that like no one's hiding a secret from you and no one's exempt from being human, you can be so much happier, have so much peace, and so much more fulfillment along the way. And that is why that has been the most valuable lesson I've learned as a coach, right? Is because getting to see behind the scenes, it's like, oh yeah, like we're all just humans struggling with human shit at 7 clients or 7 figures, right? And fortunately or unfortunately, what kind of like the marketing in our industry does is make you think that everyone's doing better than you and has a secret and, you know, is thriving more than you and whatever. And I feel like what I end up spending so much time helping my clients see is that like you're doing amazing too. Like just because you had a hard day in your business doesn't mean you're not doing amazing. And like that mentality helps them move forward so much faster. Like you guys know my clients get amazing results and they get them fast. And that is the reason. It's not because I'm like, oh, just do these 3 strategies. Though of course I'm good at strategy. It's because I'm helping them see like, you're good. You're not missing anything. Like you're doing it right. And you have so much permission to keep going where you're going. And then they soar, right? Where so many people feel like, I'm getting it wrong. I'm getting it wrong. It must be easier for other people. It must be better. And so what they do is they redo their business. They redo their strategy. They burn things down that are actually working because they really have this perception that it's better and easier for other people, right? And the only thing that makes it better and easier for other people is to get really fucking good at mindset and emotional management. Literally hands down. That's the thing that makes it better. If you're really good at mindset and emotional management, you'll feel good at 7 clients and you'll feel good at 7 figures. If If you're having a hard time managing your mindset and your emotions, you're going to have that same trouble when you're traveling. You're going to have that same trouble when you hit 6 figures, right? And so this is really, really valuable to see. A couple examples that I wanted to give that I think I already gave some of, but I want to say again, like, I really feel like one of the blessings for me too has also been that I have clients in all different situations. So I've had clients with trust funds. I have clients that travel full time. I have clients that don't travel. I have clients that, you know, have made an absolute shit ton of money right out of the gate. I've had clients that have taken a long time to make money out of the gate. I've had clients that have had kids, and lots of them. I've had clients that have had no kids. Like, everyone is so quick to look at not my clients particularly, humans are so quick to look at other people's circumstances and make the grass greener. Like, well, it would be easier if I didn't have young children, or I would feel better if I was traveling all the time, or it would be better if I started out of the gate making more money, blah, 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 right? Like, and all of it is just this losing game where we're assuming that people are doing it way better than us, right? Where the people at 7 figures don't have any problem. Like Brittany mentioned, like, once I make 10K, I'll probably not have anxiety, right? And so I just cannot share this message enough, because for me, it has been like one of the most permission giving things in my business. And something else I want to share too is it's really given me permission to build the business I want, because I know there is no, like, I'll feel better if I make 7 figures. Like, I think it'll be a fun life experience. And I think obviously we're going to do it. It's not like a thing, but like, I haven't been in a rush to chase that, because I don't actually think I'll feel 100 times better there. I fucking know that, like, my job is to feel good right now. But it's why I've been able to build a business that I fucking love and do crazy things. Like, if you were part of the partnership, you know I did something kind of wild and crazy today. And because I can, because I want to, because it feels good, because I'm not under the delusion that if I do that, it means I can't make 7 figures and finally be happy. Like, the reason I'm the happiest human I know is because I know that, like, something else is not waiting for me. If I want to feel happy, that work is in today. It's in this moment, right? It is literally right now. And my clients that have grown really fast and gotten happier at the same time have not gotten happier because of that fast growth. They've gotten happier because of the work we've done along the way and who they've had to become to step into that, right? So that's really important to say. Like, I'm so happy now because of the work I've had to do along the way, not because Lit Up Life is making over $500,000, right? It's totally the being and the work that has occurred along the way. And it's knowing this, it's knowing that, like, there is not some race to get somewhere else. Like, this is the journey. And if I can stop making myself wrong and actually be happy on this journey, not only do I have, like, a whole fucking lot more fun, but I actually really free up my opportunity and ability to build the business I want in the way that I want, right? And this isn't to make light of the fact that, like, we need to make money. I am about the money, right? It's not to make, like, it seem like airy-fairy, like, everyone has problems, so don't bother making the money. Like, obviously, a Lit Up Life needs to make money, and I want to make a lot of it. That's just a decision and a desire that I have, right? But it's not charged, because I don't believe that, like, I will feel vastly different at whatever else. And quite honestly, it's so much easier to make the money when you don't have that attachment. When you're not like, no, but seriously, I'll feel 100 fucking times better and I won't have anxiety anymore. Like, it has to happen. It's so hard to make money from that place, you guys. Like, I know that's really bad news because it's easy to get super attached, but it is so hard to make money from that grabby place of, like, but that's what will change everything. When you can be like, I'm doing my own work over here to feel good, even if I have 2 clients, right? And of course I'm going to make the money. Like, that's the magic, right? So it's not to say, like, don't make it about the money, or don't have a goal to make the money, or don't continue to grow, or whatever. It's just very much about, make it about what it's about. Like, again, so grateful for Brittany for sharing that, but it's like, If she was like, at 10K months, I'll spend totally different. I'll never have anxiety. I'll feel totally amazing, and I'll never have another worry in the world. Well, 10K months gets really fucking charged then, and you get really attached, and it gets really hard to create. If you're like, I want 10K months because I want to see my business keep growing, because I want to have the life experience of having that money, and I'm good and worthy and enough, and I feel happy day to day now, your path is fast. It truly is, right? If you're like, that will change everything and it's the only thing that matters, you get so grippy and grabby. And like, we've all been there, so it's not to make that wrong, right? It just makes it really hard to create. And so again, like, that's why this perspective is so important, where it's just true that the circumstances matter very little. So if I'm not doing the work on the stuff I need to do the work on, then my circumstances can change and I can still feel the same, right? So I could make 10K months and I'm still going to feel the same. Or I could do that work on the way to 10K months. And then number one, not only does it get easier to make 10K months, but number two, it feels a lot better when I get there, right? So like, I'm here to tell you, like, the people that are doing what appears to be 100 times better than you still have challenges. They're still dealing with many of the exact same things you're dealing with, right? It's just how they deal with them that changes, and who they have to become along the way that's going to make the biggest difference. And so if we stop holding whatever 10K months on a pedestal, or 100K months, or whatever that is for you, and we really hold on a pedestal, like being the happiest person I know, really getting to lean into that, everything gets better, right? And then it's easy to make the money, you know, and you get to make the money in the way that feels good. Like for me, I get to make money in the exact way that feels good. I get to do crazy fun things in my business because I want to, because I don't sit under the delusion that if I could just make 200K more this year or whatever, I'm just making that up, that like I will feel exponentially happier. I'm like, I feel so amazing. And like, of course, my business will continue to grow and that will be a fun life experience, right? That mentality, whether you're at 2 clients or 20 clients, that's the stuff that will change your life. 10K months will put more money in your bank account. That's pretty much it, right? And again, your brain will be like, oh, but more money in my bank account would change everything. But like, people that have gone ahead of you, and everyone, even Brittany is saying that, is here to tell you, like, it's great to have more money in your bank account. There's nothing wrong with that, but it will not change everything. Doing the inner work will change everything. When you can do both at the same time, that's like what I always focus on with my clients, right? You can do both at the same time. Everything changes, right? That's when everything changes. If you're just like 10K months will change everything, you will find yourself very disappointed and very confused. Does that make sense? Brittany says, so true. I actually found I subconsciously sabotaged myself and was really inconsistent in my income because more money meant more clients and then more stress. Brittany, I'm obsessed with you. Thank you for your honesty. You are absolutely wonderful for sharing this, but it's so true. And I've seen this so often, right? Is that if you haven't done that work, right? Like, more just means more sometimes, right? Like, you have to be in a place where you're like able to hold the space for 7 figures. And that takes a lot of personal growth too. Or you can get there, but you might burn that shit down. Honestly, this is like a little weird to say, but I've been in this industry now for over 4 years. Is that right? Over 4 years, I think. And I have seen so many people get really big and then just burn shit to the ground. Like, I'm talking like multi-million-dollar businesses, and just fucking blow it up and stop showing up because of that exact reason. Because if you don't grow into that and you think, well, once I get there, I won't have any problems, I have news for you. Like, the challenges look way more intense. Actually, one of my clients just messaged me today. She is just such a phenomenal human, so wonderful, and has grown a ton recently. Like, we've done some really amazing work together. Like, we're talking like 6-figure launches, things like that, when she had never launched before we worked together. Never launched programs before we worked together and stuff like that. And now she's just blowing up, and she's having all of the challenges that come with that in terms of team and having a ton of people around you and whatever. And she like made a joke with me this morning and she was like, remember in 2019 when I was an easy client? And I was like, listen, this is like not a problem. This is just synonymous with like really quick growth. And, you know, she was obviously just teasing, but like what she was saying is like, she's dealing with so many more higher level issues. Like the conversations we're having are just totally different now. And the challenges are totally different. But the reason she's able to grow so fast and weather those challenges so well is because she really does the inner work, and she's going to be able to hold space for that versus like a lot of the people that I've seen in this industry that have grown and then just burnt it down. It's because like this work sometimes doesn't happen along the way, and then it's really hard to hold and sustain, and it's really disappointing too, because you're like, wait, I thought when I got here I wouldn't have any more challenges, and I actually have more and they're actually even harder to hold. So that's why who you're being along the way is so important, right? And that's also why I'm always like such an advocate for build the business that feels good to you, because you will be fucking challenged by it as you grow. And if you love your business, you're going to be way more apt to want to weather those challenges. If you just did it for the cash and then realized the cash isn't actually making you happy, the likelihood that you burn your business down is actually really fucking high. I've seen it with so many people. I've seen it with clients that even have come to me after doing that. Like I've had clients that have come to me after burning down whatever, multi-6 and even 7-figure businesses, being like, I can't build it that way ever again. But like, why did they burn it down? Because they thought it was going to look different and it didn't, right? So that's why this lesson matters so much. Build the thing you love and do the work along the way, and you will feel like you are living your best life. Doesn't mean you won't have hard days, right? Doesn't mean you won't have challenges. It will just feel totally different, right? And stop thinking that someone else doesn't have those challenges. Stop thinking that there is a person who has this fully automated business with 0 challenges and the perfect team and all of these things, because they don't. They really fucking don't. They're just in it too. They're doing the best they can, right? And also some of it, reframe that. Most of it is their mindset around it. Like I would say I have a fucking amazing team. I also take the mindset that I have an amazing team. So even when my team screws something up or whatever, like my initial reaction anymore isn't like, fuck my team, what is going on, da da da. It's like, it's cool. We're all human. Every business owner deals with their team fucking shit up. Sometimes it's fine. Right? And so the mindset along the way matters so much. Hey, Belinda Lee Smith. Oh, I'm so glad you think this is so good. Thank you. Thank you. So I just want to continue to be an open book about this. I think like, again, it's such a gift for me to be behind the scenes in so many successful business. I feel like, I was going to say something specific, but obviously like I really always try to maintain confidentiality, so I'm not going to say that. But what I would say is I feel like I am so blessed to work with some of the biggest names in our industry, and probably some people you don't even know are my clients, and to be behind the scenes in that, because it has taught me so much about what actually makes you happy in business, what actually, excuse me, what actually the challenge points are, all of those kind of things. And I just feel like it is like literally one of my like jobs to tell everyone else that, not in terms of the specific of what's happening in their businesses behind the scenes, but in terms of the specifics of like, we are all struggling with our own shit. And very often it has nothing to do with the circumstances, and it has everything to do with like our own mindset and programming and all of that kind of stuff. And so if we just keep trying to fix the circumstances, we totally miss the point along the way of who we get to be on our way to growing, right? And so I just want to share that over and over again as much as humanly possible, because I get the pleasure and, you know, great joy of being able to see that. And I want everyone else to see that too, because it's transformed everything for me in terms of how I look at the world, how I view success and all of that. And so, you know, it doesn't mean you don't get to have the circumstances you want. And I want to be really clear about that, right? Like, I love to have the things I want. But like, let's just use a stupid example. There was probably a time in my life where I thought, if I just could have this amazing handbag, then I would be happier. Now I have that amazing handbag, but I'm not under the delusion that it's going to make me happier. It's just a fun life experience, right? Or there was a time where I thought if I could just get to 10K months, everything would be better and I would never have to worry again. It's not that I didn't get to 10K months really fast. It's just that like everything wasn't, everything wasn't perfect, and then I didn't never have to worry again, right? So you still get to have the things you want and do the things you want, right? But I think one example that so many of us can resonate with is thinking that like, if I go on a trip, like I'll be exponentially happier on this trip. And then you go on the trip and it's like fun and it's cool and it's a great life experience, but it's not like you are just like exponentially happier forever and that you were like at level 30 happy on that trip and then you're, not when you get back. It just isn't like that, right? And so the same is true with business. The same is true with business growth. If you're not listening to literally season 2, I think this is such a fucking fantastic example of it. So definitely be listening to that. But I also think that's really important to share today in terms of picking partners, because I think it's so easy to kind of be like, well, I didn't get picked because XYZ, or like to really make up the story. And what I really want to share here, right, is that you did not get picked because you're struggling or because you have a challenge or whatever. Every single person that filled out those applications, those business plans, had a ton of challenge points and struggle points and lack of clarity in certain areas and whatever. Like, I don't pick the person that I think has the most right answers or most potential or is the most perfect or whatever. Like, it's not about that, because that's not even a thing. Everyone has challenges, right? Even this is a conversation I have with my clients sometimes, because they're like, how do I get clients that, always just do what I ask them to do and show up and whatever? And I'm like, you don't. That's just a myth. So to speak. Doesn't mean you don't have clients you love and don't love coaching and don't have a fucking fantastic time working with. But the truth is that we are all humans and we all have challenges. And even the most successful of us still have challenges and still face uncertainty and still face all of the same things, like imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, wanting to be happier, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's all the same, right? So we have to stop pretending there's this like breed of human out there that doesn't have that. The way, though, to be the happiest person and again, this is what I have learned, is to stop thinking that everyone else is happy or isn't struggling. So last night when I was like crying about the partnership, I wasn't like, and if I was a good business owner, this wouldn't bother me. And if I had done this process right, this wouldn't be a thing. And if whatever, I was like, I mean, of course I am. This is tough. And if anybody else was in this circumstance, they would feel the same, and it's fine. My business is great. Does that make sense? Right? Lisa says, what's the name of your podcast? It's literally capital LITER. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to type it in for you. If you just search literally on iTunes, you'll find it, but it's spelled that particular way. You can also go to my website, and it's the past 2 seasons are linked up on there as well. Brittany says, how do you deal with the clients who don't do the work? So glad you're talking about this. My perception is that most people want to do the work. Sorry, my dog is distracting. Can you go lay down? Most people want to do the work, right? And so if we're not doing it, it's not necessarily because we don't want to do it. It's because something's getting in our way of doing it. And this, again, is true. Like, it's why I have clients that I coach at 7 figures, because even then it's still hard to do the work sometimes and get out of your own way enough, right? It's not like once you get there, then like it's always easy to do the work and you never have a problem. You know what I mean? So the way I always look at it is like, well, then that's our work, is to be like, why is this so hard? Why are we not doing this? What's the story that's keeping us from showing up for this? And like that kind of stuff is the being work that transforms how we feel. So for example, I did a thing on enoughness earlier today on happy thoughts. And I was sharing a lot about how it's one of the biggest things I see women struggle with is like not feeling enough. And so it shows up in all these ways. I promise I'm answering your question, Brittany. It's just a roundabout way. So enoughness shows up in all these ways, right? Like I'm not doing enough. I haven't learned enough, da, da, da. And it makes us like overwork and burn out or buy a million courses or whatever. But then not necessarily get the results we want, or not necessarily show up in the way that we want, or we think like we're never doing it right. And so we stop doing stuff, or we don't feel good enough to be on video, so we don't get on video. So anyway, my point in saying that is that I feel like the way to deal with the clients that don't do the work is to get underneath the thing that's stopping them from doing the work. Because not only is that the thing that's stopping them from doing the work, but it's probably also the thing that's making them really unhappy. You know, because if I'm spending all day telling myself I'm not enough, the likelihood that I'm like a super happy human all the time is low, because that just feels shitty, right? If I'm telling myself all day that I'm not enough, the likelihood that I just take massive big action in my business is low, right? Because if I'm not doing it right or enough or good enough ever, like why am I going to take really massive, consistent, strategic action? You see what I mean? So for me, like it's never a bad sign when someone's struggling necessarily to do the work per se. It's an indicator of what our work is that we have to do. And I think that that's why my clients tend to thrive and get really good results, because we're willing to like go there and look at that versus like just having that conversation of like, okay, well, you just got to show up and do this. You just got to show up and do this. Because like, yeah, most people do want to show up and do it. It's just hard when you have all these like stories or mindset, mindset, I don't even love the word blocks, so let's just use it there, but like mindset challenges that are keeping you from doing that. That's why like my framework is mindset, strategy, and execution, because truly like it takes all of those. So if you know the strategy and you're not executing, the likelihood is that it's a mindset issue. And being willing to work through that for me is where I see the biggest results with people. And again, I think is why like not only do my clients grow faster, but they feel a lot happier doing it. It's really funny. I did a mastermind call with my my Millionaire Makers mastermind the other day, and I was like having them share their wins from 2019. And so I think every person basically listed one of their wins as I'm happier than I've ever been. Right? And for me, that was like, I mean, they all had like best year ever, doubled revenue, like all this crazy amazing stuff too. But when everyone was like, this is the happiest I've ever been, like, I think I like literally cried on the call because it's like, that's the motherfucking thing. Right? And like so many of our stories are what are keeping us from being really happy. They're also what are keeping us from doing the execution, also keeping us from showing up and whatever. And so many of our stories are wrapped up in this idea of everyone else is doing better, knows more, has the perfect business, basically isn't a human, right? In some ways, it makes me think of like super photoshopped magazines. It's like we're all aspiring to this ideal that actually doesn't exist. And I think this industry has gotten a little bit like that, where like it's like the Photoshop magazine, where it's like we're all aspiring to this ideal of like basically not being a human. Or like I'm going off on a tangent, so I swear I'm gonna like rein it back in for a second. But it's even like Barbie dolls, how like her proportions used to not even be like genetically possible. But it was like the ideal everyone was aspiring to. And I feel like, again, it's like that's a little bit of what started to happen in our industry is there's this myth that everyone that's further along, like, you know, basically like walks on water, never has a challenge, shops all day, and has clients that only and ever get perfect results and only and ever do the work and blah, 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 like, right? And it's like, well, no, because we're humans, and that's not actually what's happening. And so I just want to keep sharing that message, because that mentality is what makes us feel not enough and keeps us stuck. And that's what keeps our growth from happening, right? So the way to be the happiest human, you know, / the way to grow really fast is to take this mentality and to realize that like everyone else is just a human doing their human thing too. So I hope that was really helpful for you guys. I cannot tell you how much it has changed the course of things for me in my business and how much it has changed how I think about things. I truly hope it does the same for you. If you're part of the partnership, make sure to check your email because you guys know I did a little bit of a wild and crazy surprise. Know how grateful I am to all of you. And just thank you so much for being part of this process. And if you guys have questions on this or are watching the replay, feel free to let me know. I think this is one of the most important topics we can continue to discuss. So I am here for any and all of the questions that you have. So I love you guys. Oh, you're so welcome, Brittany. I think you're wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing your truth today. I honestly can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So I love you all. Have a happy week and I will talk to you soon. Bye.